Thanks for stopping by. I'd like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but it means to have something playing in the background while you work on your own knitting project. If you really enjoy watching content while you work, sometimes you find that it's very visually engaging and you're several hours in and haven't gotten nearly as far along on your project as you would have liked to. So that's where I come in. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. It has been probably a whole week or so since I last filmed. As you noticed, there are a lot of videos with me in the same outfit that you see in a series of days, and that's because considering the schedule that I have or lack of, depending on how you look at it, it's easier for me right now to just film nonstop, get a good chunk of content out there, and then have it upload throughout the week. So then I just have one batch of a day of editing and uploading and converting and all that good stuff. So you'll see that there are a lot of these things happening, and you'll notice there's actually some natural light coming in today because it's not quite sundown yet and it's not midnight. It's what time is it? My teal aqua color phone case says it's 7:12 in the evening, and the fact that the sun is still out is such a good sign because even though I can't go out as often and enjoy the nice weather, at least I know that when I do start going back to work, it won't be pitch black outside when I get home, and I'll still have some evening left. And I have my decibel on really loud, so if you hear any other noises, I think my neighbor is either in the room on the other side or she's outside. I'm not sure, but I can hear it, so I don't know if you guys can hear her too. But we'll get into it. Before we start working on our project, I wanted to read an excerpt from this book. I am not very far into it, as you can see by my bookmark right here. There's still a lot more for me to read, but it is The Yarn Harlot, The Secret Life of a Knitter by Stephanie Pearl McPhee. And this was published in 2005 by Stephanie Pearl McPhee. And she, if you probably know of her, she is very involved in the knitting community, I guess you could say. I was first introduced to her through Stacey Perry, who has a YouTube channel and website called Very Pink Knits, and she had a tutorial called the One Row Scarf. So she was breaking down the One Row Scarf and referenced Stephanie Pearl McPhee as the designer of that pattern. And after kind of hearing her name circulate a little bit that way, my coworker, at least one of my coworkers who happened to gift me a lot of yarn and pattern books that we have been observing, also gave me some like regular books to read. And she has a few, I think like 3 Stephanie Pearl McPhee books in this big tote bag that I got from her, and I thought I'd try this one first. I think I looked through all of them to figure out which one was the first one she had published that I had access to, and it was this one. I'm not sure if this is the first one she's ever published, but this is the first one in the set that I have that she has published. So I'm not very far in, but I did want to read something that at least right now really resonates with me, and maybe it does with you as well. This is from the, I guess, chapter called The Sheep Shawl. I'm not really sure if it's, no, I guess it's not really a chapter, it's kind of like a section of a chapter, because she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's like a story within this chapter called The Sheep Shawl. So it says, in general, I am a process rather than product knitter. I like the feel of the wool, the smell of the wool, the ritual of sorting through patterns, choosing the right needles, and casting on. This could explain a thing or two about the number of unfinished projects in the house. I like the moment when the yarn tells you what it would like to be. I like getting past the first little bit of the knitting, to the point when I can see the pattern develop and start getting a sense of what I'm making. I like how knitting, I like how much knitting is like a magic trick. You have string and sticks, you wave your hands about, and there you have it, a sweater, a sock, warm mittens, a blanket, a shawl. I admit that it can be slow magic. Sometimes you have to wave your hands around for a really, really long time. Being a process knitter, I'm not often really attached to the finished product. I give away almost all of my knitting and seldom knit for myself. My darlings wear only hand knit socks. I wear socks bought at the local mall. And it goes on, but that first section about that process knitting, I feel like that kind of speaks to me because, one, I have four projects right now. This blanket that I'm showing you, oh no, 3, yeah. This blanket I'm showing you, the Jolie Mimi cardigan that I am already, on episode 20 of that series with you guys at this point. And then I have the Raylight socks. So there's 3 there, and then when we finally get to the pattern book with the pattern that I want to start next, that'll be my 4th project that I'm working on. And I might pepper in a few other things here and there. There's like this cross stitch thing that I've bought on a whim that I've just been looking at. It's over on my, oh my gosh. It's over on my project table, and I want to knit more of the little kitty cats that I made from the Mochi Mochi Land pattern. There's just a lot of stuff just turning in my head, and of course I found a whole lot of new inspiration from all the pattern books that we have gone through together recently. So it's interesting to think about like what knitting is to me and maybe what it is to you as well. Like, is it a finished product? Is it the process of it? Is it the selection of the pattern and the choosing of the yarn? Like, what is your favorite part of that knitting process? And for me, it's definitely like the start, but like the start when I can actually see what the pattern is. Like, we'll get into it right now. So, ta-da! That's the back. You don't care about that. We wanted to see the action. So here we go. This is the front side. You can see it's actually pretty long for, okay, well, I don't really have anything to compare it to, for one, because the magic number blanket that I knit before, that was my first baby blanket, and it was a 22 by 22 inch square, so very tiny. And this one is, I think, like in the 30 something, 40 something when it's like all blocked and ready. So it'll be a bigger blanket, and I'm very happy because where's my stitch counter? Oh, by my foot. Because the person it's for, as you guys may have noticed from my other videos with this, is probably, let's see, she was born in February, so she's like almost 3 months old now. Getting close to it. And, I'm sure her family is very concerned about what our situation will be like when they can have visitors again and where we'll be, because my partner is friends with the daddy, and I'm sure he doesn't want his daughter getting exposed to anything, and I wouldn't want her either to be exposed to anything. So depending on how things, I feel like my partner should really give this to the family in person, as they did when I finished the Magic Numbers blanket. But I don't know how old the child will be before she gets this blanket. But considering that we can't visit with them anytime soon, it's really motivating me to finish it faster so that I have no reason not to have it done by the time we can meet in person again. It was slow going in the beginning. Memorizing the pattern was a pain because there's a lot of, I mean, it's just a 2-row difference for the most part, but remembering every single thing to do for row 1 was hard. Row 2 is easy. I'm working on row 2 right now. You just keep knitting until you see the yarn over, and then you knit through the back loop. Like, that's not so bad. But yarn 1, row 1, or the odd rows, you have to do some yarn overs and some slip stitches and like all this stuff, and it's different from the beginning to the end, so it kind of complicates things there. And I thought I was going to be brave today and show you guys that I've been practicing knitting with this flicking thing. So like if I had the yarn over my index finger and just like move my hand, it's kind of making me cramp because I'm not used to it. And then I tried doing it on my left hand because I'm left-handed and thought, oh, why don't I just hold my yarn with my left hand? Won't that be easier for me? And turns out it's not. It's not because I feel like I don't have as much control over the yarn. However, it seems like if I got the hang of it, it'd be faster because, I don't know, because that yarn is already on the side where I am using the active stitch. I don't know. Some reason, like, it looks like it'd make more sense to me that way. Oh, yeah, that's right, because if I'm holding the yarn in my left finger and the needle is already like turning that way, it's easier just to hook it like this. But I get tripped up when I have to do something like this, where I have to knit through the back loop, where I have to knit like slip, well, not slip, but slip anything or knit more than one stitch together. It's harder to kind of like grab the yarn that way. And you'd think, now that I've been knitting since March of 20, well, no, I've been knitting for a year last year. So, wow, have I been knitting for 2 years now? Yes. That's crazy. Or have I? I don't know. I know I started my channel. My channel will be existing for almost a year in May. I started my channel in May, and you may or may not be seeing this video in May. Depends. May is Friday. May 1st is Friday, and I started my channel like May 13th, 14th, or 15th, something like that. I had to look at my first upload, but that has been a whole year, and I think I was already knitting a year then, or maybe a year this March, but it was definitely in March of something. I don't even know. It's been so long. I've kind of lost count now. Everything's a blur. I'm having a hard time keeping track of dates. Seems like the older I get, like something that happened like 10 years ago feels like it happened maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? That's like somebody on my Facebook page shared the fact that if you're familiar with like the viral side of YouTube, there was this video, like this music video skit called Shoes by a character named Kelly. And it's been 10 years that has been in existence. And I think it's the most funniest thing because I'm like, 10 years ago, let's see, 10 years ago is 2010. I was on the kind of the tail end of my last year of undergrad. And I remember loving that song because I am and was obsessed with footwear, and my partner and I still quote, like, to this day, that video, and just like different things that happen in the video, we still say them to each other, and it's kind of funny, but it's just like, wow, 10 years, really? Like, it's hard to believe. But in that case, it feels like it's been longer because of how old that video is. Like, if you look that video up now, you're like, yikes. The quality, the sound, like the production, like everything is just, woo-wee. It's a relic. But yeah, so I will have not really a story time, but you know, as with lots of folks here, we overshare. Sometimes it's TMI, sometimes it's like, why are you even telling me this? And it's like, well, because I can, I guess. But really, it's not that interesting, but, well, I mean, it is to me. So Friday, a couple days ago, kind of in between work, I made a mirror cake, like a mirror glaze cake. And I would say, look online, you know, you're here on YouTube, open up a new tab or stop this one and go look up mirror glaze cakes. And like galaxy mirror cake, galaxy glaze, and like all of that stuff. And basically, it's like a shiny cake. And you may remember from one of my other videos recently, I was talking about wanting to make one. And I finally had enough room in my freezer after going through many frozen veggie bags that I could get a flat enough surface to put a cake in the freezer. Because we have like one of those standard refrigerator part on the bottom and then like a little box for the freezer part. And right now I feel like I wish it was the other way around, where I had more freezer space and less fridge space, but it is what it is. So I had enough room in my freezer to make this cake because the recipe I found said that in order to get the glaze to set well and quickly, your cake should be not frozen, but very cold, very, very cold. So I made a box cake. It was just a yellow cake. Frosted it with chocolate frosting, and I wanted to do one step further because I'm like, why can't I be extra? This is the one time I'm going to do this because it's probably going to be, as it was, very intense as far as all the steps, and I don't think I'm going to do it again anytime soon. But I was like, fondant, that's going to make the smoothest surface. The glaze will just slide right over it and it'll be pretty and tasty. So I was like, well, a while ago I had researched how to make marshmallow fondant, and it's pretty easy. It doesn't require a lot of ingredients, but it does require time and patience. And those are two things that in the middle of working and like popping into the kitchen to do this in shifts, so I'm not just doing everything all at once and filling up my sink with a bunch of dirty dishes, I wanted to kind of go in stages. So stage 1 was make the cake. I did that like first thing in the morning. Stage 2, wait for it to cool and then frost it and then put that in the freezer. Did that later, or maybe like around lunchtime. Stage 3, make the fondant, roll it out, pour it, flop it, place it on top of the cake, and smooth it out, and then put it back in the freezer. So I did that probably around like 4 o'clock or so, closer to the end of my day, or end of my work day. So the fondant part was such a pain because I don't have a big flat surface, so I turned over my largest sheet pan I have, like a cookie sheet type of thing, and rolled it out on that, and it wouldn't get it wouldn't get smooth and like dry to the touch, or at least as dry as it could be. So I already had to use 4 whole cups of powdered sugar with 8 ounces of marshmallow. And how the heck do you know what well, I guess I could have weighed it, but I have a scale, but it was in my basement, and I didn't want to go in my basement just to get my kitchen scale, which I was using to weigh my kittens when I was fostering kittens. But I didn't want to go rummage around for that, so I didn't go and weigh it, but I was looking at like how much was in the bag. So I think I didn't have quite a full 8 ounces, and I probably had closer to like 6 or 7. Because it was a 10-ounce bag of mini marshmallows. And you have 4 cups of powdered sugar to start it with. You pour a little at a time, mix it until you can't really stir it anymore. Then you pour it out onto your flat surface that's been powdered with more powdered sugar, and you knead it, kind of like bread, and you cover your hands in powdered sugar, and you knead it until it's not sticky anymore. And I just kept having to add more powdered sugar. And finally it got to the point where like some of it was sticky, but some of it wasn't. And I couldn't tell if it was because my hands kept losing like that talkiness feeling, or if it was the marshmallow continuing to absorb all of the moisture. So finally I was like, okay, I'm going to roll this out. Rolled it out. It stuck. So I had to use like I didn't have a bench scraper. I mean, I have one, but I can't figure out where it is because I have used it before. So I used like this giant like icing spatula thing. I was just like scraping it off of the underside of this baking pan, and finally got to flop it on top of my bundt cake. And if you look on Instagram, you'll see my pictures of what it came out like. And, you know, it tastes fine. I honestly would add like a flavor extract to the fondant, like vanilla or maybe even chocolate, because the cake was chocolate, because it just tastes like straight up powdered sugar. I couldn't even taste the marshmallow anymore. It was just powdered sugar. So that was it's overwhelming for me, but surprisingly my partner is fine with the taste, and they're usually a lot more sensitive to sugar than I am as far as like what they can tolerate as sweet. And so I was like, okay, with the chocolate cutting the powdered sugar taste, it's not as bad, but I still like scrape the fondant part off of the cake. And then the glaze, I found out that my thermometer is broken. And the glaze is supposed to be 95 degrees exactly before you can pour it over the cake to properly get it to stick and get shiny and all that stuff. And it was shiny for like maybe a couple hours, and then eventually the fondant, I think all the powdered sugar started to crystallize, and now it's just like a rainbowy, like a pastel blue and pinky striped fondant cake. And the glaze is just like, it's there, but it's not shiny anymore. So it's like, okay, that wasn't what I thought was gonna happen. Wait, 2, 4, 6. Oops. So we're at that stage where I was just like, okay. I mean, it's still tasty. I scraped the fondant off, but it's still a good cake. And that's kind of where we are. I made coffee cake the last Sunday, and then this Friday, and I bought lemons because my supervisor told me about a raspberry scone recipe that she likes. So I think that I'll do that next after the cake is gone. Okay. But other than that, I mean, I've just been on a baking journey. So let me know if any of you guys have, gone on any kind of culinary or kitchen adventures just to kind of brush up on your skills now that you don't really, well, if you're like me, you don't have anywhere you need to be, nowhere you can go, and now you can just spend time cooking and stuff. What's going on here? Oh. Definitely dropped a stitch, so let me scoop it back up on the needle like it's supposed to be. Let's do that and there we are. Alright, so we're just on our odd row right now. Nothing crazy, but we're gonna go ahead and call this an episode because I'm almost out of reel, digital reel for this video segment. So thank you so much for stopping by, listening to me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!